All right, so as I was saying, I went back to becoming a leftist in like 2015, but like I said, my whole life I was a leftist communist, and a little bit in 2014 I became a right winger. But I kind of want to describe a little bit more what my grandpa was talking about that kind of confused me. Like I said, my whole life I didn't like my grandpa's ideas. 'Cause I thought he was kind of a right winger, and I thought he was a victim blamer. So one of his big things was, I know he got it from Dr. Hora, the founder of metapsychiatry, and my grandpa got his PhD under him in psychology. But is that idea like that Dr. Hora taught, like, sickness, there is no such thing as sickness. There is no, it's kind of like the Christian Science. Like there is no sickness, there is no disease, there is no cancer, there is no AIDS, it's just thoughts. Like, so now my grandpa, he tried, at first he would be like, yeah, everything is energy. So yes, if you're in the flow, you can't get sick, you can't get disease and stuff, right? So it's like that new age kind of religious type of thing. And I always saw that as victim blaming, like, oh, yeah, so someone's sick, oh, because it's his fault, because of his thoughts and stuff. And I always thought that was kind of, it was that victim blaming thing. I thought it was a white supremacist type of thing, like blaming the victim. And there was that spiritual religious stuff. And I didn't like spiritual religious stuff. I always saw spirituality and religion as white supremacists. White supremacists is maintaining the status quo and victim blaming, right? And that's why it maintains the status quo. It says, oh, the poor are there because of their thoughts. The rich are there because of their thoughts. And because of my grandpa said, it's not their thoughts. It's their level of software. They're in the flow. And, but so basically, but this was also something that influenced my mom, I thought, because my mom would be like, so at this point, I wanted to get help with my leg. I had a hurt leg. So I'm asking my mom, can I talk to dad? And she's like, no, he's never going to talk to you in your life. And the thing is, it really is true. It really was the shoot-away machine that messed up my shot. Now, my grandpa didn't believe me, and I'm going to get to that. But because he didn't know how good I was at basketball, and I'm going to get to that too. He didn't know. He wasn't there. He was in Kauai. And if I had videos I could show, and I had some videos, and I want to study the moves I did, because I did things that nobody does. And also the way that I shot, if I study how I did it, I could duplicate it. I can shoot good again. And it was a shoot-away machine that messed up my form. It messed up how I moved into it. And my dad tried to fix it. And then he told me to do the wrong thing, and everything just deteriorated and went haywire, right? So, but at this point, I wanted to talk to my dad, and my mom was like, no, he doesn't want to talk to you. And I tried to explain to my mom about the shoot-away. So I'm like, Mom, listen. And I tried to explain to her about the shoot-away, but every time I would bring it up, my mom would say, no talking about the past. No talking about the past. And it was because that was another thing that my grandpa, I said, exactly, this, if it wasn't for my grandpa, I don't think things would have been so crazy. My grandpa set up these conditions, but my grandpa said, well, it wasn't me. And I never told her that you can't talk about well, he did say that not talking about the past, because he said, if you're in the moment, if you're in the flow, you're in the eternal moment, eternal now. But my grandpa was like, yeah, I know. She misinterpreted it, and she has predator prey software, and that's why she won't talk. But, he said, I cast pearls of swine. So, but then I would tell my grandpa, well, then change it. Tell her that what she's doing is wrong. And he'd be like, no, I can't, because she hasn't asked the question yet. So he set up terrible conditions, and then he wouldn't fix the conditions or make any attempt to fix the conditions. But again, I know it's because he had lacked respect for me and stuff. And I'll get to that. So, I mean, he really set up horrifying conditions for me. So I'm going to get to this. I'm trying to tell my mom about the shoot-away, because I wanted her to know. She's like, your dad's never going to talk to you. He hates you. Dude, don't you remember how bad you treated him in high school? First off, my mom would barely ever talk to me. But then I tried to tell her about the shoot-away machine. Like I said, she had me blocked on her phone. But every once in a while, I get to talk to her. I want to tell her about the shoot-away machine and say, it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. If it wasn't for the shoot-away machine, it's not something wrong with me. She wants to believe that there was something inherently wrong with me that led to all these problems. No, there wasn't anything wrong with me. It was a shoot-away machine, and then grandpa coming in and making things worse. And it was a snowball. My dad trying to fix my shot by telling me to do the wrong thing because he didn't know, and them not listening to me. And then I discovered the Quadrant model. And like I said, I think the reason why she wanted to believe I had schizophrenia so bad when I showed them the Quadrant model was because I was abused. And I feel like they wanted to be like, my mom wanted to be like, well, the reason why he was abused was because he was mentally ill. And so they could justify the abuse that happened. But it wasn't, that's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't because I was mentally ill. It was because of the shoot-away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot-away machine, none of this stuff would have happened. So I want to explain this to my mom. My mom was like, no, talk about the past. No talking about basketball. No talking about the past. Oh my God, how old are you? You're 23 years old. Why are you stuck in the past? Well, you're 24 years old. You're 25. Why are you stuck? No talk about the past. So I wanted to explain, but I just want to explain to her, It wasn't me. It was a shoot away machine that messed things up. If it wasn't for that, the stuff wouldn't have gone crazy. Now, this is the other thing that what she would do. So my grandpa, his whole thing was about take responsibility. He would say, it's all that you can do is take responsibility and upgrade your software. And that was, again, a part of like that idea of like, no, there is no disease. It's your thoughts. Like, don't blame the outside. Don't blame the viruses. Don't blame genetics. It's not genetics. It's your thoughts. It's your software. If you're in the flow, you can't get diseases. So again, I always saw that as victim blaming and right wing, like it's the victim's fault. He gets diseases and it's always the, and the people who win, it's because it's also extolling the winner. Because it's like, oh, it's because they have the right thoughts because they're in the flow, And of course, there's truth to that, but not complete. Like there's truth to it, but things can be more complex than that. But when I was a leftist, I hated that because I thought I saw it as victim blaming, and I wanted to overturn society, and I wanted to race mix and everything, right? So, but my grandpa was like, you have to, all you can do, you would be like, you can't change people. Like this is what was happening in high school. Like you can't change your mom and dad. All you can do is change yourself. All you can do is upgrade your software. You have to just take responsibility for your software. You can't change other people. You just have to take responsibility for upgrading your software. So then my mom would be like, yeah, you can't change this, Ryan. Ryan, you can't force things. You can't make things happen. You can't change people. You can't change people. Because I needed help from my dad, to fix my shot. And I didn't know how to fix it because I was always unconscious. That's why I was so good at basketball, because I didn't know what was, how I shot. And my dad always helped me my whole life. He shot with me every day. And everything was always good because I was catching the ball nicely off passes and doing automatic stuff. And my form was perfect. But with the shoot away rack, when I'm picking the ball off the rack, it messed up my shot. Now, when things got messed up, my dad tried to fix it. My dad would always fix little things in the past. And I always felt like I needed him. But now that my shot was really messed up, my dad's trying to fix it, but he's telling me to do the complete wrong thing. He's like, shoot sideways, and he tried to artificially make me do it. And he just screwed things up way worse. Now, but my mom, back in the day, during the time in high school, my mom would be like, you can't change people. You can't make your dad shoot with you. You can't change us. Because my grandpa would be like, yeah, well, you can't change people. You can only take responsibility for yourself. And again, I always saw that as a right-wing thing. It's like, it's a way to maintain the order. It's a conservative thing. Like, like Marx was like, you have to change things. Like there's injustice and you change things and you fight against it and you start a Marxist revolution and stuff. But, my grandpa's was like, no, you can't change people. All you can do is upgrade your software. And I always saw it as like a victim blaming thing. And I'll get more into that later. But I saw it as a right-wing thing. So I'm trying to tell my mom, I was like, first it took years for me to even say it one time. I never got a chance to even say it because every time I would try to bring up the shoot away machine, my mom would say, don't talk about the past. Don't talk about it. And she would hang up. It took so long for me to ever say it one time. But then one time I'm like, Mom, I just want to tell you, I know it wasn't because of my fault that my shot got messed up. It was because of the shoot away machine. If it wasn't for that, things would not have gone crazy. But my mom was cutting me off. No talking about the past. And she's like, all you do is blame others. You don't take responsibility for anything. You have to take responsibility. So she would parrot what my grandpa would say about taking responsibility. Like, and then the other thing was like, I would say, can I talk to Dad? And my mom would be like, you can't change people, Ryan. You can't change people. She'd be parroting what my grandpa would say. You can't change people. You have to take responsibility and you can't change people. You can't force things. Because my grandpa would be like, in the flow, you don't force things. You don't make things happen. So my grandma would be like, you don't force things. But my grandpa would say my mom wasn't in the flow, that she had predator prey software, and that a good mother would listen to her son and talk to her son. And a good dad would do the same thing. But they thought that they were doing what my grandpa would say. Now I tell my grandpa, well, then tell them that they're not acting in the flow. And my grandpa would be like, I can't tell them because they haven't asked a question yet. They need to ask a question. Otherwise, it's not helpful. And also, I know that my grandpa looked down upon me, and I'll get to that. So I'm trying to I want to talk to my dad. I have a hurt leg. I want to, and I want to make up, and I want to show him what happened with the shoot away machine. I can show, I don't want to tell you guys the details because I don't want to make good shooters think, but I can show him the details about how good shooters shoot. And I want more videos so I can study more, but I want to show him also the moves that I was studying and why I would like more videos and stuff. But, he won't talk to me. So this is the crazy situation that I was in. So I'm trying to talk to my mom. I'm trying to talk to her and ask if I can get help from my dad. But, it's that you have to take responsibility. You can't change people. He's never going to talk to you. You can't change people. You got to get it through your head. You can't force things. just parroting what my grandpa would say. So like, again, my grandpa, I feel like his like metapsychiatry stuff like ruined stuff pretty much for me, made things like 1,000 times worse. So then at this time, you know, I wanted to, but then again, like then my grandpa tried to make his stuff more rational, because remember when I was a leftist, I was very much against religion and spirituality because I saw his white supremacist. So, and I was against his like ideas of like, you know, your thoughts create illness and stuff, and there is no such thing as illness. There's just everything is energy, and you know, there is no sickness. So, you know, but my grandpa would also talk, like I said, he would say like there is no such thing as man or woman, and there is no thing, and you know, but understand what he's saying. If you transcend the ego, you transcend the self, then you can see things as they truly are. What my grandpa would call pure awareness. But at this time, when my grandpa taught me that, he didn't tell me it. He was a terrible teacher. He didn't teach me in a way that I could understand. And when he would talk about pure awareness, I thought he was just talking about some like meditative, like woo-woo state that. So I didn't understand what he was talking about. Now I understand what he's saying is like see things as they truly are, objectively, without the contamination by the ego. But it took me till 2020 to read Dr. Horace's book to kind of start understanding that, because he never taught me well. My grandpa didn't teach me well. He just confused me. So I'm confused at this point. I don't understand what he's talking about with the flow. When he's talking about the flow, I'm wondering, is he talking about race mixing? Is it like a leftist thing? Is it like, I don't understand. Is he liberal? Is he conservative? I don't get my grandpa. I'm like, this guy just confuses me. So, you know, at this point, you know, I have a hurt leg. I want help. And then, but my grandpa's not helping me. And then my mom and dad aren't helping me. And I'm going to get more into details about, you know, how things were really bad. But so, I'll get more into that in the next video. But like I said, I ended up going to my mom and dad's house, to my grandma's house. And I wanted to tell my grandma, can you please talk to my mom and dad and get them to help me with my leg? And then, you know, but then my sister was in the house and she was like, no, you have to leave. You have to go. And I was living in San Diego. I drove all the way to Los Angeles and I was like, no, I want to talk to grandma. She's like, no, you have to go. So then I picked up some pots and I threw them at the door. Then my sister called the police. And then I had to end up going to court. So I left, but I ended up having to go to court for throwing pots at my grandma's door, because my sister wouldn't let me in because I wanted help with my leg. And I want to talk to my grandma so she could talk to my mom and dad. So I'm going to get more into into the next part of the story later. But like I said, I feel like my grandpa did not help at all. He made things 1,000 times worse, his ideas and stuff. And yes, my mom and dad might have misinterpreted it. And he might have cast pearls of swine, but he didn't help the situation at all. He didn't try to fix it. And I'm going to get into how he didn't understand. Like he didn't believe me about the shoot away machine. And I'm going to get to that. He thought that it was something wrong with me. He thought, you were just playing against bigger, better players. And that's why you got mad at that's why bad things happened with you and your dad. It wasn't because of the shoot away machine. It was just because of the shoot away machine. It wasn't because I was playing against bigger, better players. I was a starting point guard on varsity as a freshman. My coach in the 8th grade said I was better than Bryce Taylor, who played in the NBA. You know, the coach at Harvard was like, and then the coaches, like, I had coaches saying I would play in the NBA. I was really, really good. The thing that screwed me up was a shoot away machine. Then my dad trying to fix it. My dad trying to fix everything. My dad then manipulating things and screwing things up worse. And if it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of that would have happened, because I was automatic. Even when I was picking the ball off the shoot away machine, I was still automatic and not thinking, but I was just shooting wrong because I was picking the ball off of a rack and it made me shoot wrong. And I'll get into details about that based off how I moved into it with my feet. But I don't want to tell people the details on that because I don't want to make people think, good shooters think. But like I said, I think that my grandpa screwed things up in this sense. So I'll get more into details on that in the next video.